Good evening. Everyone very, very welcome. Yep. My name is Marcus Kane, and I'm basically an asset chair this particular meeting. This is essentially a workshop in relation to a European project called Fit to Gap. Like all European projects, it's got an acronym that's not the best, let's just say. Okay? I think the most important thing is to focus on the word gap. Okay? This project is about essentially is, as you probably all know in terms of engineering, the gap typically that occurs between buildings that are designed with respect to energy performance in particular, but not only energy performance, environmental performance as well. There is often a gap between the design and the actual operation of the building. And it's a highly complex process, building, design, construction, and operation. So the idea here was that is there a certain way using technology that we could create an IT platform that allowed different stakeholders during the building life cycle assemble different technologies to determine performance at different stages. Main focus was on the operational stage. So just to give you a basic idea, and I'm not going to take long here because each of the presenters will give a clear picture of each of the technologies and their roles, etc. But the main idea essentially was that there's a particular scenario. So let me just say, for example, my background. If we're focusing on air handling as an example in buildings, okay, say the HVAC side, etc., where you go through a design and you've got build drawings, etc., and then you lay out the buildings, etc., and then you've got an energy plant room, etc., and then you've got air handling serviced by chillers or boilers or whatever else it might be. How can we be sure that the air handling units are actually performing as per the actual specification? And what we want to do essentially is look at the likes of our building manager here in this building, the guy called Dalton. How does he interact with the building in a way that he knows that that air handling unit, such as the one performing here, as you can probably feel, it's a lot cooler than it should be. That's largely down to the fact probably that it's expecting an occupancy of about 100 people here. And it's probably for a period of 1 hour or whatever else it might be. Okay? So trying to figure out things that, in terms of the actual design intent, what is the actual gap between the design intent and the actual performance? Okay? Now, the best part of this, I think, is to take each people as listed here from 1 through to 8 and kind of give you the expertise here, people and company. So first and foremost, I'd like to introduce you to Tom Messery, sitting in front here. He's the CEO of R2M. Tom has an engineering background, both from within the military, but also in setting up this company. He worked previously with other companies as a project manager, etc. And R2M stands for Research to Market. So this company specifically focuses on looking at particular research outputs and trying to figure out how you can leverage and commercialize those outputs into usable technologies in the market, particularly around Europe. We also have here Paul Cowley, who he works with Cylon, which is an indigenous building management system company based in Clonshaugh in Dublin. And Cylon systems are installed throughout the college here in a lot of the buildings here. The idea here was to work on trying to figure out how to leverage building management systems within the project. And we have both Brendan O'Riordan and Celine Stanley here from Zootech, which is a Dublin-based company. Brendan is the CEO of Zootech. Their specialization is building information models, specifically for the operational phase of buildings, but also for the construction phase. Again, I'll let you talk through. Fifth, we have Lewis Vanis, who is a member of our research group, but also he's the manager of Robert Pulse within the HITSCAN project. Lewis, by background, is an architect, but he also did a master's in energy simulation, and he's a really good understanding of the information technology side. And he's going to explain a particular tool we've developed here in NUAG called Monster. The BEMSERVER, we have Marco Petrobon also from R2M back there, who's been really, really useful here in driving the pilot, and specifically knows exactly how to work on different tools and technologies, including fault detection, diagnostics, detailed simulation, and how to leverage all of the data needed for those to work through the system. Number 7, we have a local company called Enerit, whose main focus is specifically on ISO 50001, energy management system. And they specifically have a tool, a software tool, that enables to an extent, the automated support of energy management according to ISO 50001 across a range of different building types and facilities. Finally, we have our colleague Danielle Pastola from the University of Strathclyde. And Strathclyde will be very well known for detailed building energy simulation, specifically to do with the software tool ESBR, my apologies. And again, the idea here is to see whether we could actually provide a module that would enable different stakeholders, like building energy managers who would not have the expertise necessary to use detailed simulation. Now, after all that, what we're going to do essentially here is walk you through, if you are a building manager in a building like this, what types of tools could you use that recognizes your level of expertise in these areas, that allows you to support decision making if you want to trial different aspects of operations within buildings. Okay. So without further ado, I will hand over to Tom Messervy, and we'll bring it through. Oh yeah, just housekeeping, my apologies. So in terms of housekeeping, first thing is just that you're aware this is being beamed all over the place, so that broadcast, sorry, I'm showing up my age, broadcast, okay, so that you are aware of the fact that there's lots of people are perhaps viewing this particular presentation, etc. And the second thing is we'll be handing out a questionnaire towards the end, and we would really appreciate that you fill it out. Yeah, those are reminders. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Pleasure to be here in Ireland. I live and work and I reside in Italy. I'm an American from Maine. The climate's not so different than here, nor the food, so it's also a pleasure to be here. Here's the title of the presentation, BEMSERVER, a new kind of energy management platform, the future of energy management, reducing the gap in energy performance between design, construction, and use of buildings. It's a 4-year project. It's an €8 million project. It's a 24-partner project within the Horizon 2020 Framework Program. A couple words about R2M. We're an innovation and sustainability company. We get involved in research and we try to commercialize it. We're in 4 locations. We're about 50 people, good-looking people. We started in 2012. Here we are now. We do these things, mostly operating in innovation and sustainable buildings. We founded UNESCO. In our European projects, we've met various interesting partners like IES and Zutec. We bring them into Italy. Those are both Irish companies. And for them, the Italian market could be difficult due to language and customs and other barriers. We pick those up and we tell those in Italy that they're best in business because they are, and we try to grow business in Italy with them. For IES, we have about 40 engineering firms using that, and for Zutec, we have about 4 projects, 30 organizations, and 150 users using Zutec. So there's some impact that we're having in Italy. We are the distributors of Onyx Solar photovoltaic glass out of Spain. We think it's a world-leading product in transparent photovoltaic glass, crystalline and amorphous technologies. And with that, we'll have a skyscraper putting that on in Milan in the next 6 months. We can't release that officially, but we have it. And it gets stakeholders and clients calling us each day, architects, trying to make their buildings NZEB ready. Our market point of entry is typically LEED, BREEAM, and WELL certification, where we try to provide sustainability consulting to stakeholders in new and existing buildings. And that allows us to interact with all stakeholders in the value chain and suggest interesting technologies like Hit the Gap, BEMSERVER, and the other organizations you will hear from tonight. The project is part of the Horizon 2020 program. That's the world's largest, I think, research and framework program, €80 billion. We're soon to start Horizon Europe for €100 billion. So this opportunity for partners and companies like us to come together within the scope of European research is phenomenally excellent, because none of us have the capabilities to develop individually something like we're presenting tonight. So enough about R2M and myself. Now let's talk about BEMSERVER. Back to the title slide. And it's motivated by the energy performance gap. Professor Keane highlighted that. There's a reason for the gap. It can be design, construction, commissioning, or operational issues of the building. Here's one graphic that tries or does some studies quantify some of the ranges. We focus on the third leg there, mostly commissioning. In operational, we focus on the fourth leg, operation, where there's can be error in the gap of up to 30 to 120% between the design and actual use of the building. What is BEMSERVER? We have a nice video showing you graphically and conceptually what that is. It's output from the project. It's now an open source project. You could download the BEMSERVER tonight and deploy it. You probably need some help from the module developers or from the platform project leader, but you could do that if you had the correct personnel with the skills on the software to do that. It's a data platform, it's a modeling platform, and it has modules. We'll do more, explain what that is in a moment. Why BEMSERVER? One could argue BMS systems have limitations. Perhaps they're not always open. Perhaps it may be hard to get your data. Maybe the needs or KPIs associated with your building change in time and you need flexibility. An example, we probably are tracking metrics that we didn't track 5 years ago, whether it be CO2 or circularity or rare earth materials coming up or NZ or other aspects that KPIs in the future will arrive. We'll have to adapt to that. What we're asking from our buildings and building managers is changing over time. Continuing the example, USGBC, which is the lead environment where we operate, they're moving away from design-based certification. So you did design and now you're certified gold? No. Give me your data, show me your performance, and now you can be certified gold. So we're moving away from design-based certification to data-based certification. And then digitalization, IoT, and big data are megatrends. They are not going away. And those that embrace them faster are more competitive, for sure. We believe there's a productivity opportunity to be unlocked. We know the construction sector is lagging behind, and platforms such as the BEMSERVER and the concepts within it are one way to unlock value in our construction and building industry. Also motivated, we know we cannot meet climate targets that our leaders, our nations, and we have subscribed to without addressing buildings. They account for 40% of energy use, 36% of greenhouse gas emissions. And if we look at the two graphs on the right that show our energy consumption over time or our population over time, it's only getting worse. If we look at the temperature trends and what's being said about climate change, it's not encouraging. More articles that come out about species extinction. So this is in the background. We want to contribute to climate change. We promised a video that illustrates the concept. Here it is.
The difference between the expected and actual energy usage in buildings often exceeds 50%. This can make it difficult to meet EU energy targets without sacrificing comfort. The BEMSERVER solution aims to reduce this performance gap once a building is in operation. Using a network of sensors, buildings collect data on energy consumption and usage and store it in their building management system database. This data is then transferred to the new, open-source BEMSERVER platform using a simple connector. The BEMSERVER solution comes with a module store, allowing the user to plug in a wide variety of new service modules to give meaning to your data. The store covers a wide range of needs, from technical modules for energy and facility managers, to modules that help building occupants visualize and control their impact on the energy gap. They are easy to connect via web APIs and let you build a holistic view of your buildings to improve comfort, performance, and operating costs. BEMSERVER is the first platform of its kind and gives building stakeholders the freedom to transform their buildings into a smart and modular platform of services. The BEMSERVER store already offers a range of modules catering to multiple stakeholders and provides access to advanced technologies like artificial intelligence, thermal simulation, and smart forecasting. With BEMSERVER and its modules, you can deploy an energy management solution customized to your needs and involve all your stakeholders in reducing the energy performance gap in your buildings. BEMSERVER, a new open source platform. For more information, visit our website.
That's our video. If it's not clear, open source means anyone can go grab that code and use that code. If improvements are made to the code, it needs to be reflected back to the community. I forget the number of percentage of software we're all using, such as Android, that is open source, but it is a large movement worldwide that I wasn't aware of until this project and started paying attention to. The video illustrated these concepts. From buildings, we look at people, energy, and environment. We have some core modules that sit on top of the building through a connector that allow us to look at the data from that building and make analytics and cross data streams and allow people to customize what modules they would like for their building for various purposes. Core functionalities are connectivity, management, visualization, and then the analytics. Who can benefit? Owners of buildings, decision makers, the users of buildings, ESCOs that are trying to improve the performance of buildings, or financial institutions, technology providers that would like to provide a module to this environment, organizations concerned with climate change, suppliers of energy, companies working in the field of energy efficiency, engineers, research communities, other H220 projects. I guess everyone can use BEMSERVER, that's the point. Some images on visualization. The project feature is to pilot this, to prototype it, to validate it for pilots, and we're here in one now. So that's the reason we're here tonight. This is the NUIG pilot, and you'll hear some results from the rest of the presentations. The other pilots, one is in Spain. It's a building called Nangoon, Offices and Laboratories. Bouygues, their headquarters in France. We have piloted there. It's a very sophisticated building with renewable energy technologies, controls, lighting systems. Challenger building. A new town hall building in Winnowell, Poland. SBMS controls, lighting. And then our very own Alice Perry engineering building where we are here tonight. Where we selected 3 rooms, a computer lab, and 2 other spaces. Leveraging the technologies in this building. The process that has been used in these pilots is to get a baseline, to decide what areas of the building to target for the demonstration and validation of this platform, to interact with the users in the buildings, evaluate the gap as best possible, implement the system and collect data, and then evaluate its performance. So in conclusion, a new kind of energy management platform, open source, customizable, modular, and ready to empower you to make the most of your building data. Getting involved, we have a website where one can go and download the code, www.bemserver.org. Our project webpage is www.hitthegap.eu. It tells the story of our project and a sister project is listed. Will be followed by Paul Connolly of Cylon, which will cover the Cylon activities of the pilot, formerly the pilot manager, and of which the technologies are installed, the hardware in this building.
Thank you, Tom. Yeah, I'll just give you a little bit of a background of Cylon, the type of stuff that we do, maybe give you a bit of insight on why we were involved in the project in the first place, and then talk to you about what we did in the project and why it was necessary to involve us. First thing I need to do is work out how to use these controls. So, so just to say a brief introduction to Cylon. Cylon is an Irish-based company. It's been in the business of building energy management control for over 30 years. It came out of UCD as a project there, so UCD has to show. We now have a market in Europe, North America, Asia, so we've now become a global company. particularly North America is a big growth market for us. In 2009, we introduced a SaaS software package called Active Energy for cloud-based building energy analytics, and in 2012 we opened an office out of the sort of bones of Philip Teletron, which now gives us a platform in multi-site control. So we can now take some pipes and put them in more buildings and then control them with a single package. So Solon Active Energy, that is a package that Solon has at the moment, and it's enabled us to do some of the module evaluation, because we've got some of the features within Solon Active Energy that people have been developing in the modules. So we can do performance analysis, we can do push alarming, we can compare data in league tables, and we can do some optimization of building performance with it. American Automatrix, that's a company that we did acquire in the States. Out of the back of that, we acquired a package called Aspect, a web-enabled building energy management system, and we've now applied that so that we can take data from our Cylon systems. What we have done as part of the Hit-to-Gap platform is we've increased the way that we can push data from our proprietary Unitron systems into this package and then integrate with packages like the Hit-to-Gap platform. So we'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. So where Solon is going, Tom was talking about the way that we're now moving to sort of open systems. Solon is kind of doing the same. We've been in the past a very closed company in that we've been reliant on our own Unitron packages and our own Unitron hardware. What we're now doing is moving to open protocol systems. That means that we're more vulnerable in that we can apply BACnet, you can apply Modbus, you can get open source competitive packages to talk with on the same trunks as Cylon. But what it has meant is that we are now reducing our range of products. I mean, we can now upgrade sites that are Unitron sites in stages. So you can start to upgrade and put BACnet systems and Unitron systems working together. You can see here some of the products that we have brought in 2019, and we've got a huge array of products coming in. 2018 and 2019. Next year we've got a huge array of products coming in. I won't dwell on this, but as Tom was mentioning, some of the modules that were deployed in NUIG, so these are the ones that we have been supporting from Cylon data. You can see that highlighted green column on the end. So the stuff the challenge that we had on this site, as I mentioned, it was a Unitron site. So you can see these trunks here are all Unitron. They're all proprietary protocol, and that gives us a problem with actually getting the data where it was needed. As I mentioned, we did have Aspect, and that sits in these Aspect control engines. They were much better at pushing data because it's something that they did already. The challenge for us was to actually take the Unitron data, get in with Aspect so that we push that forward. That's something that we did as part of this work. We developed an Aspect Unitron driver. So now if anybody has a Unitron site and they want to employ Aspect or they want to push data into another platform, that can be done within our Aspect control engines. So it means that the whole Cylon system has been opened. It's much more flexible for future use. So as I mentioned, we were pushing data. Here we were pushing it into an Amazon database, MySQL, and from there data was pushed into the Hit-to-Gap platform, and that's where the module developers were able to integrate it. The other thing that we have done is here you can see some Buildax sensors, and I think Daniel will talk a little bit more about those and how they were required for a different part of the Hit-to-Gap program. But it gives you an example of where we can now integrate different parts of different systems. So the detail of what we were faced with in terms of BEMS collection data, we had over 2,000 data logs and in the end we did ultimately push around about 400 data logs to the HitterCAD platform for the modules to work with. We also had some work in terms of support with the new pilot manager and liaising, and making sure that the modules were assessed properly. We think we achieved that very well. Marco, I think, did a very good job of actually making sure that the modules were evaluated on time. It's been a challenge, but we know that we've got some very good modules that can be taken forward. So this is an example of some of the variables that we had to push from the Alice-Perry building. So we're looking at the AHU, we're looking at main heating circuits, we're looking at temperature, relative humidity, and CO2. All this information had to be pulled together into our Amazon database and then pushed into the platform for model developers to use. I mentioned the Unitron movement to an open protocol. It's been a key development for Cylon, and it's come out of this HitterCAD platform to enable us to do that. And as I mentioned again, it's a key upgrade path where you can now partially upgrade systems. And the vulnerability for us is that you can now look at integrating other people's kits. So if you want to take somebody else's BACnet kit and get it working with Cylon kit, that's a possibility. We've also got the opportunity to bring in Modbus, either over IP or over RTU, directly into our systems, either at the aspect layer or at our controller level. So it's becoming much more flexible. In future editions, we'll be looking at KNX, MBus, other stuff going straight in and talking to those that aspect platform. And again, that data can then be pushed. So this is just showing you the modifications that we had to do, and I mentioned the aspect control engines. You can see that this is the old software here. We've now got in this this area here, we've actually got some new controllers that have gone in. We've got some new head-end controllers. These are our aspect control engines that enable us to push the data in those aspect control engines is the driver. You can see on the right-hand side there, that's a typical aspect graphic. Within aspect, you can do the alarm functions. I know you guys are maybe interested in that certainly for this site and getting access into those sites, into that particular control platform. It can give you either at a local level for a single room, for a single building, or for a whole site or multiple sites. It can give you a summation of push alarms. So already as a result of moving that aspect Unitron driver, Cylon has been able to start upgrade packages that we haven't been able to do in Europe. So at the moment we've got 18 contracts on the go. That's to this time today, which at the moment is bringing in about a €2 million revenue. So for us, even that small part of this project has been a huge success. So anybody out there that's got a Unitron system and wants to upgrade it, it's now far easier to do that as a staged upgrade. The other thing that's really come out of this package is it's enabled us to liaise with several companies, universities, and I think that we're already now starting to investigate future cooperation. And where we go with that, we don't yet know, but I'm sure a lot of new ventures will come out of the next few months. So we're talking certainly with companies at the moment. The success stories, the BIM module developed by Zootech and the load forecasting developed by UDG are good examples for where Cylon Active Energy may be able to enrich what it does. It's areas that we don't currently cover with Active Energy. So we're now looking at those and saying, are they things that we can actually partner with these companies and increase our offerings to customers? So just following on from Tom's information earlier on about climate change and where we're all facing challenges. 40% of global energy is consumed by buildings, and Cylon is passionate about performance. So that's a key move for us. If we can get some benefits out of working with partners here, and we can improve energy performance globally, that would be a great result. Thanks very much. I'll pass on to Brendan, who will talk about a bit about
Hi everyone, Brendan O'Riordan, I'm the CEO of Zootech. Let me see if this is working. I've already messed it up, I apologize about that. That's probably, I'll definitely blame you. Maybe that's because the graphics on our slide or something like that, but we can go through it this way anyway for the first slide. So just to introduce Zootech. There we go. There was too much black on the slide, I'm sure, for the graphics card to run. So Zootech is a company that has basically a database that's worked in construction for the last 20 years. Where it started was with static data. We provided a repository for people to put operations and maintenance information into. So warranties, instruction manuals, maintenance manuals, things like that. 20 years ago, that was on PDF, on disk. Things have moved on. In about 2004, we moved into the cloud, became an actual database company. And in 2006, we won our first big project, which was Wembley Stadium in the UK. We worked on projects like Wembley Stadium, the Shard, Cleveland Clinic, Abu Dhabi Airport, Qatar Airport, the port in Qatar, Melbourne Convention Centre. And if you walk up in the city of London, up Bishopsgate, where all the banks are, all of those tall buildings we've worked on or are working on. So that's our DNA, is providing that static data in a usable format to the users of the building, but also providing the construction and the construction teams and the consultant teams a way of building up that data through workflows. So that's where we came into it. We then built a 3D tool to start displaying that static data. We were approached about the Intergap project, and the change was that it was going to be a live data. So this excited us. Okay, live data, we can put alongside static data. We're going to start to make a difference. Because information, the way I saw it, information is key. This is all about closing the gap. If you don't know there's a gap, you don't know what to close. So visualization of that, although we're a small part of the project, that visualization is very important in a very simple way. So our Dimensions app, which is our 3D part, started out displaying 3D data or static data in a 3D environment. So we moved on from so we opened the application with federated models. So we could bring in multiple models into a single model to show them. We can download them quickly. They're very, very light. So there's a graphic as a loader in the background. Very light, very fast to load. So we can take, on one project in the UK, we've loaded in like 93 different models. It's a large shopping centre, and I know that Navisworks can't load 93 models into it. We can do it very quickly on your iPad and move through it. It'll load it very quickly. That speed is massively important. It slows down, no one wants it. So all of those federated models, mechanical, structural, electrical, architectural, all of those models loaded into one federated model, having that speed is absolutely essential to this kind of display. Now, one of the secrets around it is that we didn't put the data into the model as most people do. We keep the data in a database, and it's only called when you need it. So that when you're loading the model, you're not loading and carrying around all that data. It means you can have it on a light app as such. The next one is a video. So because we're visualizing, I thought I'd visualize it through a video. So this is the building we're in at the moment, the Alice Perry building. This is our app on a Mac, and we're looking at the different asset tags we have, the data tags. These are all live data tags. We've selected them, and you can see the current CO2 level, the window is open. All of those tags are on. Now, you wouldn't look at them all at once. So we're going to go to a location, just happens to be the room we're in now, and it'll stack my CO2 levels, humidity, temperature. Any information we're getting from the sign-on system, we can load into Zootech, and you can see it live. You can set the, if it's 5 seconds, 20 seconds, a minute, with update times. So seeing that data live is very important. This is the research room upstairs, I think. The valve state will be for AC units above the ceiling. We've got temperatures, all in this same area. Very easy, and this is real time. See how fast you can move around. These are the different data points that are available, the different information in that room. So you're loading all of that live directly through the BEMSERVER from the Cylon sensors. This is outside, an air handling unit, so we've got supply temp, output temp, the cooling valve, what the setting is, the different temperatures, a different stage of through the air handling unit. But also, so these are the different data points, and not only that, we'll move on from there. It's not just about your live data, but we've got our static data as well. So our static data is coming up here. It's loading into the drawing of it, so you can start to access the details. Go back into that, there's going to be another drawing, click on it. It'll open up that drawing, which is all the technical specs of that air handling unit. So you have access to not just live data visually, but all the data that you would have in your building for that. So that's a very important part of what we do. It's light, it's quick. As I said, that video isn't speeded up. That's someone working through it. So it loads very quickly, get through all that information. And only for the BEMSERVER and Cylon working here, we wouldn't have done that. H264 came to us with that idea. Okay, we spoke to Marcus, we have static data, great. So live data, let's do that. Then you're looking at, okay, you've got BACnet, Osmos, all the different KX, all these different types of protocols. But the BEMSERVER and what Paul spoke about, outputting a single protocol allows us to get this across way more buildings. So at the moment, it's obviously with the H264, it's live on the NURG building and the town hall in Warsaw. It's very exciting for us. It's been a big change in our direction around that. But we see the BEMSERVER being absolutely essential, and the project has been interesting to say the least from our point of view, because a lot of this energy management stuff we didn't know much about. But it turns out that, as I say, knowledge is key. Having that information, knowing what gaps are, being able to get into the room, visualize it well, is a big part of energy management. Running reports is that it's important, but being able to visualize it is a huge part of it. And that's what we brought to the H264. And there was, Paul's right, climate change, it's becoming much bigger in our business. We're looking at other bits we do. We manage snagging, defects, inspection requests, any kind of data you want across construction through different apps. And this is one part of what we do, and expanding that. And then we're looking at what we can do with the other data we have and how we can work in other parts of the construction or building life cycle and make a difference. Yeah, that's pretty much us. As I say, we're a small part of it. It's just a visualization. But I think it is a bit that, because it's so visual, it has quite a lot of effect. And it didn't happen too easily either. So thanks. I'll hand over to Daniel.
Thank you, Bruce. Well, we already saw where the data is coming from, how it can be visualized. We're going to give the first presentation about what we call in H264 the modules. So are parts of the tool that present some sort of functionality to assist the facility manager in taking the decisions. In this case, we focus on environmental quality because it's one of the things that we could tackle with the simulation software that we have been using as Trust5. So ESP
HDR is the tool that we have been developing there for 40 years. It's a known tool for its capabilities on energy simulation in an integrated fashion, but it's rarely used in the operation of buildings. It's a lot of use simulation in general in the design context. And the challenge was how we could use it to support decision-making for facility managers. IEQ is in itself is a big challenge. You have thermal comfort, lighting, acoustics, air quality, many aspects. Each one of them, let's say thermal, to go to a standard on thermal comfort, there will be 5, 6 different aspects. Was thinking about it during the presentation. We have this displacement ventilation here, so the fresh air is coming from the floor. And as we have less people than in the design condition of this room, probably we're insufflating much more cold air in the room than we actually need. This air is getting accumulated here in the lower part of the room, which means that Tom, myself, and the first row will be exposed to more cold air than we expected and probably will face some thermal comfort issues. Now, this is not on the average thermal comfort sensation, it's more on the thermal certification, would be the 4th item here. So it's very tricky to see how we can tackle these thermal comfort issues or lighting issues in the actual building. You can, of course, measure that by this 3,000 pounds device connected to silo and then connected to hit the gap and visualize it through Zootech platform. But it's not trivial because we have thousands of people in the buildings and each one of them would deserve a small tree just for thermal comfort. What about the other aspects? So it's a big challenge to provide proper data for decision making in terms of indoor environmental quality. And once you detect this problem, there are so many solutions. You can change the set points of your HVAC, you can change the position of a valve, you can change the grill itself, you can change the blinds to reduce radiation. So once you identify the problem, many possible potential solutions there. Of course, assuming that you have the means and the time to investigate that problem. In many cases, facility managers are so overwhelmed with other activities that there is little time available to address that. But assuming, taking this as a starting point. And one thing that's very tricky on environmental quality indoors is that you might change something that will mitigate my problem here. I'm not feeling cold. It's actually quite cold here in the lower part of the room. But we create a problem to the guys that are there on the back. So how you balance all these aspects. And you don't want to play with the real building. You'd like to have a virtual environment, a virtual reality where you can test scenarios and see if you're actually creating a better solution or just increasing the problem. Another thing that is an issue in environmental quality is that sometimes users complain about something and the problem is something else. So a lot of research done in this sense, person is mad with the boss, you cannot say, I'm mad at you. So they call the facility manager, say, the office is too cold this morning. And how do you understand or you differentiate that problem that you can actually solve by changing set point or a valve to the problem that is out of your realm because that person is meeting the requirements or that position, the requirements of a standard. And so there are so many levels to investigate here. And we have no tools to test scenarios in a real building, and we have no tool to identify critical areas. I prefer warm environments, so I should be sitting on the back. Eventually somebody that's from Norway would love to be here. It's a beautiful warm day in Norway here on the lower part. So how to identify these areas in the building that you can swap people. Sometimes the solution is not on the HVAC. We're discussing that this afternoon with the facility manager of the campus. A lot of psychology and human sciences on tackling these problems. And finally, it's a very reactive work. You gotta wait for people to complain and then you address that. So those are the challenges. And what we did here, we used simulation, so that's a very complex model with all the walls, desks, ducts, HVAC systems, grills. And we calibrated this model to provide all those metrics in the standard for all the desks in the building for all hours of the year. So if you would like to see if at 6 o'clock on a beautiful Thursday, Liam will be facing any thermal comfort problem in that desk or that chair, we could see that in principle, which is a complete new resolution that you cannot address that with measured data. This is the interface of our system. You go to the Hit the Gap portal, and you just select the start and ending date of your assessment, and the assessment itself, so what's the standard you would like to test. You click, and all the magic of simulation will happen behind the scenes, so you don't need to be a simulation expert to use this tool. And what you're going to get out of that is, let's say for thermal comfort, you use the ISO standard with 5 different criteria. It's going to run a CFD model for each one of the rooms, get each one of the positions and say this complies or not with the standard in that particular criterion. Which would require, in previous times, coming to a consultant. The consultant comes, makes the model, goes back to the office, writes the report for a specific day, brings back the report. Oh, I would like to see it for the next day. Another cycle on that, while here you can just change the dates, and this pre-configured model will do the work for you. And this, again, for every chair of the area that you're addressing this model. We also address visual comfort, in this case, glare risk assessment, people that are feeling that space is too bright. And this is particularly important in large offices where nobody has the control of the blinds are automated. And you would like to see if there's a problem there, and you would change the set points of those blinds. And again, for each one of these positions, you're going to have a dedicated radiant simulation. And for consultants, this is very specialized work. Let's do glare risk assessment. And in this case, you can do that without any knowledge on simulation. And the third and last aspect was indoor air quality, in this case for CO2. And it's the same principle. We have CFD model, and based on the airflows, each one of you is releasing CO2. We can check the distribution of it in the room and see if there's any potential problem for a location. All the simulations, people tend to have a very skeptical position towards simulation. Understand? There's ground for it, a lot of misuse. But in this case, all the simulations, they're calibrated. And this is the point where Hit the Gap and BEMSERVER becomes so important. Because when you click assessment there, what our tool is going to do is to go to BEMSERVER, get the measured data for that room, inlet temperatures, outlet temperatures, flow rates, and we will use this to calibrate that model for that particular day in such a way that you have a very good agreement between simulation and actual measured results, and increases the reliability of that data. It's never going to be perfect, but it's way better than the simulation that was not calibrated, and a lot of time was spent in the project to make the simulations as reliable as possible. So basically you can use it to assess areas with potential problems and act in a more proactive way. You can identify areas with extreme performance. You know that that desk is a complicated place. For some reason, higher radiation, airflow, air velocities, and you use that one as the least resource in your office. You're not going to put that person that was going to be working there for 30 years in that desk. You make it the hot desk of the office, and people will cope with that problem in a better way. And you can identify, in case of complaints, if there's actual ground for that complaint or if there's something else playing a role in that situation. If you want to deploy that, it's reasonably simple. You get BEMSERVER, place it in your building connected with your BMS. You're going to commission a high-resolution model. We can do that. Other consultants can do that as well with the right expertise. And once this model is commissioned, it's configured in the platform, and you can run your simulations. Costs of it, there will be cost of model development, a setup fee, and some fee that's going to be there to support running this in the server. All that I'm describing here is open source, in the same way that BEMSERVER is open source and the SPR is open source. So if you feel like doing this within your organization, you install BEMSERVER, you download the SPR, build the model, run it locally, and none of these costs will be involved. You have internal costs in your organization, of course. But the bottom line is that this is way more affordable than having thousands of sensors for at least a dozen of different variables for each position in the building. Very good trade-off. And in terms of cost, again, let's compare indoor environmental quality with productivity. This is a study comparison. And they check different temperatures and the level of productivity. This is usually in the lab. People
clicking and see how many mistakes they make. And you see that when you go away from that soft spot, performance decreases, and 5% of performance is £1,000 per person per year in terms of salary. It's 10 extra days of holiday. It's something sensible if your organization actually wants to quantify that. To share with you just two results of pilot sites on deploying this system. This one is from one of the pilot sites, and they were so concerned when they started getting the user complaints that HitTheGap provides. HitTheGap has one model that allows people to say, I'm not happy, and a lot of people are not happy with that organization. So they said, what if we bring it to 22 to 24 all over the year in terms of temperature? Make it as close as possible to that soft spot. What the standards tell you, and research tells us that this is not going to be better than this. Whatever reasons are driving the complaints here will remain here. Because there are other aspects being eroded there. But your energy consumption is going to be much higher. So using the tool, you could see that you're going to spend more money in energy, you're going to spend more energy, so your performance gap will increase, and you are likely not to get the results in terms of thermal comfort. They use this to take the decision on going or not going in that direction. Something that before having this tool would be problematic. In another case study this year, while deploying the system and making this high-resolution model requires all the information about the building, the systems, the controls, and so on, it was possible to identify a control problem that was there since the building was built. So the integrator made a mistake on one particular set point, and this was resetting an equipment and creating a problem. And as we were poking to make the model, calibrate the model, and so on, this problem was identified, fixed, which means that in that particular case, the performance gap was reduced. And then we say, what if we have night ventilation to mitigate thermal comfort problems during the summer? So we made a separate model with night ventilation. And then it was possible to compare the model as it is now with the model with this variation. And in this case, it's a no-go. You're going to get some additional, there will be a gain in performance, but it is not as big to justify having the night ventilation and all the burden around it. So these are just a few examples of how the tool can be used for decision making, but it's up to different organizations to see how to use it. And that's all for me. I'm going to pass the word to Luis.
Hi, hello everybody. I think we are okay with the time, so what I'm going to explain here is the development of MOSCO, which is an acronym for Model Supported Control. So basically, it's the web interface for building simulation model that we've been developing in the last 2 or 3 years in technology. So these simulation models are normally done in an engineer's computer. So they're very interoperable. They're not shown or exposed as a tool that it can be used by somebody using a computer. So results are kept in the research environment. And or the other option would be that somebody purchase software, simulation software like IES or something like that. You have to pay a fee, you have to install it, you have to choose all the constraints if the simulation goes on, so if the simulation software improves, you have to pay an extra fee, etc., etc. So what we wanted to do is something really easy to set up that doesn't require many engineering knowledge. So with basic information of the building, you can create a model. You can easily set up in a web interface, and then you can use the model for performance assessment. Okay, and that opens up
a lot of possibilities with interaction with other type of models. Okay, so that was kind of the key idea for developing one interface for something which is a computer model, which is something locked in a computer of an engineer or a student or a researcher. Okay, so as I said. The type of models we're talking about there, they're called reduced order models. So another problem with the models is that normally they require a lot of information, a lot of knowledge, a lot of simplification, a lot of inputs that sometimes we just don't know, we just don't have, or we just don't know how to get into the input. There's so many simulation platforms, so many simulation software available, and this is, I think, one of the problems that a person that wants to use a model to assess different scenarios or to use it for counter strategies finds out. So as long as you have a simulation software, you find out very easily you don't have the type of input, so you have very uncertain knowledge about what you have to input in that software, and sometimes that comes with a lot of sort of a very big learning curve, or resort to hiring a specialist. Okay? So, and this is seen as a barrier to adopt simulation. Okay. So we wanted to bring this engineering tool to perform gap analysis to support the day-to-day operation of the building. Okay. As I said, using BPS, building performance simulation as an energy efficiency driver, open up run models, reduce order models to a wider audience. As I said, the reduce order models means just simplified models. Okay. So we need a very reduced amount of inputs, okay, to bring from desktop-based application to web-based models. All the tools and all the instruments, all the artifacts that we use to develop the models are open source. The simulation engine is open source, so that means that engineering opportunities arise. So whoever wants to develop and keep going with the versions of the core model that will run in the multi-code, we can take it from there. It can be also a part of or analytic for further exploitation. Simplified inputs that are easy to generate, and as I said, flexibility. So the body of knowledge of this tool can grow because it's open source. Okay? So the simplification resides in two main blocks. So this is kind of a very simplified ideogram of the block that we're talking about. So there is an external block which is the weather. This represents basically all the energy that gets added or subtracted in a room or a building. And there's another model that is governed by schedules. So this is the whole input of based on schedules of occupancy, seasonality, and availability of HVAC systems in place. And then this block here addresses all the physical properties of the buildings. Okay? And what we do in these models is to to gather all physical properties and to gather in a simple resistance and capacitance model. Okay? So what we get with this model is the model expression. So we run the model runs very quick and very easy. It takes only 60 or 70 seconds to do a one-year simulation, which is also another problem with very, very complex, we call it white box models. But then it has some physical meaning, and it has some physical reality inside that you can get into and you can modify. Okay?
because the other option would be a black box model. You can make the model, but the only thing is that you can't change the model as you never know what's inside the model. So the only thing you can do is prediction. You cannot change, you cannot elaborate another model with another schedule, for instance, for seasonality. So let's take winter and summer and move on the threshold. So when it's winter, when it's summer, so the system gets on and off. You can't do that with a black box model because there's no way to find the input because it doesn't exist. With this, you can still do it. Okay. Okay. This is the web architecture of the model. The model itself is just a file. It's called functional mockup unit, which is a standard for let's say interoperability of models. Okay. Then we have a simulation engine with a set of routines and simulations called the simulation stack. And then we have the web application. Web application, it's done with a very standard framework, Python. And we have some workers that just get the simulation and get the simulation engine to work. Okay. From the Hit2Gad, what we have? We have measurements and building information. Okay. And what we achieve to drop in Hit2Gad is time series and events. Okay. This is the landing page of the tool. So what do we have to do to generate a model? First of all, to have information about the builder. Okay. So we come here. This is one of the pages of the interface where we have already developed for a given room, which is the computer lab, for a number of models. Okay. When we click in one of these models, this is just one of the possible models of the building. Maybe this model contains a certain set point, and then this contains another schedule for occupancy, or maybe another schedule for winter and summer availability of systems. So all of these models are run. A first model is run also and calibrated. So we did 3 models and calibrated against real data for 2015 on this building, and then compare with the results of the model. Okay. This is the so in order to create a model, you just have to click create new model and set up all the parameters here. Okay. There are 35 parameters. And for instance, and then there's some of the parameters they use just an input, an Excel file. You have to fill the Excel file and find out resistance, capacitance, and there are a number of simplifications there. So, for instance, the models, they only have 4 facades, so it's north, south, east, and west. So we don't get into the cumbersome geometry problem of not knowing, of making a model really that reflects the absolute accuracy of all the geometry of the building. We just simplify enough to have enough physical information so the building gets the weather, the radiation, and the temperature in the right way. This is, for instance, one of the results of the model. So we compare monthly energy consumption with real data, okay, and we just find out this is an automatic metric for calibration that against these two metrics for calibration, the model is actually calibrated, okay. So once we know that this model is calibrated, we can start changing and see what's the impact of energy consumption. Okay. in order to do that, so this is just going back to the inputs of the model. So this is what I was telling you about the Excel file. So there is a selector for materials, for construction, for arrangements, and then the Excel file calculates the resistance and capacitance of the building. Okay. And then for the schedule, there is a schedule generator. So you have a schedule for occupancy, for loads, and for seasonality. And then it generates the input for the model for you. Okay. There is also a calibration part of the tool, where you choose some of the parameters and make them vary among a threshold, and it launches a calibration work. Okay. And there is also a part of the tool that where I think for the energy manager is the most valuable part. So, for instance, this shows all the different simulations, all the different models created for one given room. In this graph, you can interact with the graph, and you can fine-grain difference between them. So you can say, okay, I'm going to try. In fact, that was the story of creating the model that was calibrated. So number 20, number 30 here is the calibrated one. So in the first chance of the model, we just created the model that was so this is adjusted with the real consumption of the building. For instance, here was really this is adjusted with the real occupancy. When we got the data from the real consumption, we created a model that is really reflecting what was all the settings of occupancy and all the settings on winter and summer. Okay. So once you have the model, you can create another model and say, okay, I'm going to run it, and I'm going to find out what's the energy consumption. And in here, you can zoom here and see what's the difference between 1, 2, or 3 of them. Okay. So what you can do is to assess daily start and stop. So you can create a schedule and say, I'm going to change the start and stop the HVAC. Run the model and see what's the energy consumption. Change the seasons, so just enlarge the summer or reduce, or to move forward or backward. Change the availability, so just say, okay, we're going to have 30% of the HVAC on or off. We're going to have it close the weekends 100% or not, or we are going to have it fully functional all the time, no matter what. Okay? So probably that was one of the problems with this room. The room was running 100% all the time, regardless of occupancy. I think that was fixed, a couple of years ago, by looking at the results of the tool. So another thing you can do is to change the set points because the set point is one of the inputs. So the temperature of this room and the hysteresis of so how big the set point is going to be. If there is a cooling or a heating set point, you can also change it. And you can also change the expected occupancy. Okay? You can say, okay, this room is going to be occupied 20% only. So let's make it possible in the model and see how much energy do we reduce, do we save by assuming that the occupancy is going to be 20%. There will be a potential for exploitation, so which I call complex integration. So alone on its own, the model is just a simulation model that, of course, you can take advantage of it. It's of course it's online, and but then the reason to bring it to BEMSERVER is to be able to be used by other models. So, for instance,
if we find out that there is a fault, so what the BEMSERVER platform brings is the possibility to be integrated in disparate ways. So one example of integration would be, let's say that there is a fault detected by other models called fault detection and diagnosis principal component analysis developed by other partners or maybe another partner or other adopter of the platform, and it drops a fault event. The fault event has some definition, and we can take that event and say, okay, we are going to make two models. One model is going to be business as usual or calibrated model, and the other model is going to reflect the fault. Make the comparison as we find out the energy penalty of that fault. So the model tool is good for calculate this penalty, and then we don't know the fault. So we are taking the faults, we are taking an array of faults, other detected by other tools. We're just measuring how big is the fault, okay? And then what do we do with that? We can just let you know it, but then we can generate an event that says, okay, the energy penalty generated by that fault is that, and log it to the platform. And then another model, more kind of energy, more administrative, or more oriented to project management, to dashboards or something like that, can take that event and say, okay, I'm going to generate a report that would be energy, for instance. I'm going to send it an email to whatever the work chain is, or whoever is the responsible, or I'm going to gather 10 emails of this kind, and I'm going to just produce a monthly report that gathers the frequency of all of this, and I'm going to recommend that somebody have a look at this with some metrics and with some awareness of what's the energy penalty and what's the energy saving potential. Okay, so that's a future way of exploiting the goodness of having models for detection and other type of modules in platforms like BEMSERVER. Okay. I think that's all. Questions? We can just drop it to the panel. Okay. We have now Marco Pietrogon from RTN, and he's going to show us some results on the modules that I mentioned before. Okay. Thank you, Marco.
Thanks, Luis. Good evening to everybody. I am from R2M, Research to Market Solution. Our team, our company is based in Italy, and I work in the Tom message. I present now an example of some tests we perform in this building. We as R2M, together with Cylon, with the HIRUS group, and also University of Stuttgart, and the other module developers participating into that. We worked very well also with the facility management team of this building and the entire campus. So here, Michael Hurlan and Carl Obiero. Thanks for the common work. And now I would like to present an example of a module, a software module, another software module we have integrated in the BEMSERVER solution. This module is about fault detection and diagnosis of systems, and also about comfort conditions with them. This software module is developed by the EXIT research group in the University of Girona. And we are working together, in order to test this software here. And now we see an example about this room, about the ironing unit serving this room. This model software is connected to the BEMSERVER and allows to detect faults in the use of systems parts, system components, and thanks to the BEMSERVER platform, it can do this automatically. So, with a frequency of 60 minutes, the software models perform a simulation taking automatically data from the BMS thanks to the BEMSERVER. So the data from the Cylon database are passed on the BEMSERVER, and thanks to the BEMSERVER, the data are provided to the fault detection FDD modules or to the ESPR modules and so on. The FDD-PCA modules allows to detect automatically two kind of faults. One is magnitude faults. These faults occur when some variables measured by the sensor show faults respect his value. For example, too high value for this temperature sensor, or too much high value in the supply air temperature sensor of the iron. These are magnitude faults, so values too high or too low for a sensor, for example. But this module, this software, allows also to detect correlation faults. Correlation faults mean that, for example, a variable of a system, for example, the supply temperature of the air in this room, is normally function of the outdoor temperature, for example, because we have these rules in the BMS. But perhaps this correlation is not respected, and so we can have a fault. And also this kind of fault, this correlation fault, can be detected by this software. And we say that thanks to the BEMSERVER, we don't have to launch this software each day or when we want, but it's automatically run by the BEMSERVER. We can see there some example of the interface of this module that can be accessed from the BEMSERVER. And let's say, considering the example of this room and of the air handling unit serving this room, which is behind that wall. This is the scheme of the air handling unit for this room. We saw from the test that really the software can detect this kind of fault. For example, fans of the air handling unit working out of the proper time periods. And detecting this kind of faults allows to have electrical energy saving. We detected that during some period some sensors or actuators or valves not worked in the desired way. We can also detect issues about indoor comfort and air quality, considering real measure data, because the software, thanks to his model, can recognize faulty values of from a sensor, for example, from the sensors or from the sensor over there, about temperature, relative humidity, and CO2 level in this group. And the software allows also to recognize abnormal energy demand for heating, cooling, electrical uses, and so on. This not means that all these faults happen in this building, but we performed some tests. We performed some tests using modified input. So we modified the input artificially, and we saw that the test, the software really give right results according to the faults we created because we want to check the software. Or also we performed a test on field with the facility manager acting faults, artificial faults, in order to see if the software reacts properly. And we have optimal results. And then during the last 4-month test, we also find some real faults, which are not artificially created by us, but which are faults, let's say small faults, which really occurred in the building. And then we see one example. Basing on these tests, we did a general estimation about the potential saving can be offered by a tool like this. Not only non-specifically in this situation, but in general, considering a building with typical higher handling units like this one, and considering typical reasonable faults that can be occur to this kind of higher handling units, we estimate the potential saving of electricity we could have if the sensor and the fans work in the best way. And we calculate that the electrical saving could be between the 25 and the 65%. We can speak here about the potential saving. Is a general estimation, but starting from the test here. And we can say that here the higher handling units are well operated, so the faults recognized here are not a lot. But in general, we developed some scenario to estimate this value of saving that can be reached in other situations. Considering, for example, that for 1 week in a year, a sensor can be broken. For example, the supply higher temperature sensor can be broken, and the fans, the supply and return fans of the air handling unit can work at 100% of the electrical power for 1 week without that anyone can recognize this, because perhaps we have a lot of fire handling units in a building large like this, And if we don't have an automatic tool like this one, together with BEMSERVER, to recognize the fault, perhaps 1 week, 2 weeks can pass without seeing these faults. Only quickly some details about the example of this room and the related iron link unit. We can see that the iron link unit service this room is, say, a common iron link unit with a supply flux, a supply flow and a return flow with the 3 coils. And the iron link unit have these data points. You can see the data points here in the scheme. And for our test and for the use of the FDD module, we consider the data points you see highlighted in light blue. In this case, we have a comprehensive BMS, and let's say we have a lot of data points, but in general, we could use the module, the software, also with less data points. We consider data points in the iron link unit and data points in the room about indoor comfort conditions used to control the iron link unit. And then we use in the software in the 2 operation modes. The first one is the modeling mode. So the software in modeling mode takes the data from the VMS, a limited set of data. For example, 1 month of data. Here we use 1 year of data because we have a longer set of data. But the important thing is that we consider a set of data which is representing of the normal behavior of the system considered. And in modeling mode, the software, basing on the statistical model he has inside, develop the proper statistical model that represent the normal behavior of our iron link units. Then we launch the software in monitoring mode, and so each hour a simulation is performed in order to detect faults. University of Girona developed this software basing on statistical model, not basing on physical model like ESPR or MOS. So this gives flexibility about the data set we need to perform the software. Here we have a list of the data points we use for this, with this software. We use 21 data sets for this room plus the iron link unit, and these are taken directly from BEMSERVER. And here an example of results. We see these 21 variables, and here we have 1 column for each variable. For example, we see there is red bars, and those red bars represent detected faults. In this case, this is the simulation about the 1st February 2019, and the software detected some faults in the variables related to the temperature after the cooling coil of the ironing unit. We exchange ideas about this with the facility manager. He told us that probably this is a fault that happened only that days, and indeed these faults didn't happen after. So in this case, the software recognizes a fault that occurred only one time, probably for not fixed reason, not for a broken component. And this is another, so the main input is this one, and the module can also give some text warning. Another output, sorry, is this one. When we can understand the logic behind the software. So let's say, for example, here we have one box for each of the 21 variables, and for example, we see there the typical behavior of these variables with, let's say, a kind of median value and the maximum profile and the minimum profile. During these days, considering in the simulation, the actual shape of the variable is this in red, and is different between the normal behavior of the system. And thanks to this kind of analysis, which are performed automatically by the software, faults can be recognized. So, and I give the floor to
Okay, hi everyone. John Cunningham here, a local guy from Galway, software development manager with Enerit and co-founder back in 2004. Just to give you a little bit about Enerit and the Enerit software, we call it the management tool managing energy action every day. Enerit software mature, standalone product, supports all aspects of ISO 50001 or general energy management best practice. It helps an energy manager focus on finding and delivering energy savings quickly and continuously. And it's a management tool to manage people and their actions. So that's basically what we're about. And then just, rather than talk, we could talk a lot about the product and what it does, I wanted to really focus in on the EM module and hit the gap and the benefits that the BEMSERVER has brought to the Enerit Energy Management module at the pilot site. So really just two cases that highlight that. One is just accessing energy consumption data to build an energy flow diagram and the energy performance indicators that we use in our module. And then secondly, the auto-generating of improvement opportunities within the module, which is kind of a second stage of the standard process for implementing our software. So the first one is to do with, it's a case study for the pilot site, the Nanaguna pilot site, which is offices and laboratories in San Sebastian in Spain. Just a little description about the site. It's a unique infrastructure, 6,200 meters squared. It was set up to host a clean room with nearly 300 meters squared and 15 ultra-sensitive laboratories with state-of-the-art equipment. So it's a very advanced building. Then our normal approach, implementing the module of Nanaguna. Our standard approach, and then what I've highlighted in red is just areas where the BEMSERVER has brought added value to the way we implement our product on site or in any situation. So first of all, identify the energy consumed at Nanaguna through bills or through information, map where that energy was used, and build what we call our energy flow or our Sankey diagram. Out of that, you then identify your significant energy uses, which are the key ones that are important on site and that you might focus on for energy savings. You also establish an energy baseline so that you can measure against or you can compare performance against. And then you define the EMPIs or the energy performance indicators to work against that baseline. Improvement opportunities are kind of a second stage then, once you've identified areas that you can improve on, and that's kind of, I'll show you that in the second case study, or the second area we look at. And then in theory or in practice, what happens after that is the system drives energy savings and improvement. Okay, so then you can see this is just a slide to highlight the energy management module as part of the BEMSERVER, system. Okay, so moving on then, without getting into the detail of what the Sankey flow diagram is, it's basically a map of your energy sources through your bills, or what your energy costs are for the year, and then on the right-hand side is a mapping that you build up of what's actually using that energy. And the flow diagram kind of highlights where the energy is flowing. So in this case, you have grid electricity and natural gas are the two energy uses being used in Nanagune. Looking then at a particular energy use, what we capture then, or that is what we try to do, is we try to identify how much energy is being used in a particular energy use. Now to do that, it can be manually entered, but obviously in a system like this, or in a situation like this, you want it to be automatically populated. So we can link the energy source using a tag and using meters or meter data to the energy use, and then that can be automatically populated. So that's basically the process, or how the data. So then automatically on a monthly basis, the data is pulled in. The advantage, so this is just a list of some of the data points, and obviously there's a large amount of data points in complex buildings and that with regard to energy data. The normal process to read monthly data into the energy use. The advantage that BEMSERVER gives is that rather than the normal process would be, you may have to write a specific integration or a specific API for each individual new site that you might move to. The advantage that BEMSERVER gives is it gives a single standard API for all pilot sites. There's no need for separate code per site, and it's easily configured for new sites for us. So basically, we write the integration for BEMSERVER, and then any system that's able to push data to BEMSERVER, we can automatically and quite quickly configure in order to be able to, rather than doing an individual one, we can get it done very, very quickly. So that's one advantage, and that's one advantage that BEMSERVER brings to the way we would normally operate. Second area, kind of similar, but just looking at identifying an energy baseline and energy performance indicators. So we would identify for a customer or a site, we identify a series of what are their energy performance indicators that show how they're performing on a monthly basis. So we have a list of them here defined for Nanagune. And again, just highlighting a particular one, which is energy intensity 2019 versus 2015. And then just the baseline number appears. This is a view in our standard software. So looking at that, this is just a graph showing performance, and this is actual data for over the course of the project. So what we're comparing here is the energy intensity from 2019 versus the baseline 2015 for Nanagune. So you can see with the blue being the MPI for 2019, you can see a very impressive energy improvement on the baseline from 2015. So it shows that over the course of the project, they've shown improvements. A little bit of detail about, probably not readable from where you are, but just to highlight, again, where the BEMSERVER comes in here is that our mapping involves linking meters to produce this data, or linking measurements, and then the EMPI is based on those measurements, and the baseline is based on those measurements. So having the BEMSERVER available means this is very reproducible for other sites or other customers or future people that use the BEMSERVER. And then just to highlight again, back to the point, Nanagune, over the course of the project, you can see that they have 2019 to 2015, but also if you look at the table here, they've shown continuous improvement from the beginning in both natural gas, particularly over the 3 years, and also then in electricity as well. They've shown energy savings and energy improvement over the course of the project. Okay. Case 2 then is moving on to what would be the second stage maybe of an energy management program, and we're looking at the Challenger building here, that's one of the other pilots on the H264 project. Challenger building, combined floor area 67,000 meters or square meters, range of renewable energy technologies, 21,500 square meters of photovoltaic panels, 450 square meters of dual PV and thermal solar panels. Hard to even say the complexity of what they have on the site. So this time, what I'm going to look at is the improvement opportunities at Challenger. This is just a listing of open improvement opportunities that they're working on at the moment. Don't worry too much about the detail, other than what I'm going to highlight is what our normal approach is, or what the normal approach using our software would be outside without the availability of the BEMSERVER. So basically you come back to our Sankey diagram again. Normal approach, identify a particular significant energy use, open the document or open the gather-all, the document that captures the information for that energy use, and then manually you go in and you trigger a new improvement opportunity and you enter the information into that improvement opportunity document. So that would be, the energy manager would be using our software and working in that way. Through the BEMSERVER, what we've done in the same way that we're pulling the energy data, we've developed an API and an agent configured in the energy management module, which scans the BEMSERVER and uses the standard API codes available in the BEMSERVER to read actions, and to read actions. There's a configuration then in the system now. We've developed a configuration that allows you to map the appropriate actions to the appropriate sites and energy uses in the system. The actions found then generate an improvement opportunity automatically in the system, in our system, against energy uses. System then, the energy manager is notified of the creation or an update to those improvement opportunities. So it may be, if it's an existing one, they're given a reminder, here was another occurrence or another instance of that action. And again, highlighting the advantage of BEMSERVER, the standard format of actions ensures that they can be read from any module that delivers them to the BEMSERVER. So basically, if they're available on the BEMSERVER, then they can be read, and they will be read automatically based on a small configuration in the NRET system. And just to highlight again, live, these are current actions in the Challenger, or current improvement opportunities identified for the Challenger site in the Challenger system. We have actions coming from the RENSIM module. We have actions coming from the event-driven behavior module, and we have actions coming from the semantic behavior module. So what that's highlighting is an actual instance of where a number of modules plugged into the BEMSERVER are working together and operating together, and the energy manager for Challenger is processing those, or is investigating those improvement opportunities, and can then push them through our normal process, and can work them through the system and generate energy savings. That's just a shot of a particular improvement opportunity, and it shows you some data that, just to highlight some of the data that come through, maybe that it's mapped against the particular location, the site, the category of improvement opportunity, and the energy use that it's actually applied against, and then that you can pass some detail of that as well that comes in that's relevant to the energy manager and how they make their decision about whether to act on the improvement or not. And that's just a sample from integrated, taken in from the RENSIM module. Okay, and then just to finish with a couple of testimonials, just to highlight, we've two statements there. One from the Nanaguna from Gorka, Nanaguna saying the functionality whereby our energy flow diagram is self-updating with minimal configuration in the EM module shows the advantage the BEMSERVER integration can give to the EM module. And then secondly, from Jessica at the Challenger site, saying the functionality where actions or alarms are triggered from the behavior or RENSIM modules and appear on my desk as improvement opportunities for review in the EM module show the power of what has been developed through the Hit the Gap project. So that's just an actual instance of what they've felt out of actually using the modules.
Do you think that baseline needs to be improved in terms of accuracy?
Sorry, the baseline?
The way it's calculated, or
yeah, well, I mean, we have
during the years, you feel that there are these kind of
yeah, there are various ways. I mean, in our system, there are various ways you can define the baseline. Whether it's in what we've used here, the baseline matches the EMP that they've defined. So it's based on if it's energy per meter squared or that. But our software would allow you to do regression analysis or do something else to produce a better baseline, or what is perceived as a better baseline. Yeah.
And you can add more, because if you have a long, let's say, history, if, for example, we have 5 years of data collecting between the BIOS and the automatic reading, and we are trying as an exercise to make the final assessment to see what is the best baseline, because the project starts in September 2015, so we are trying to compare the yearly consumption with the 2015 or 2016, because it was the time that the pilot to make something so it's more technical and so on. So if you have a long set of data, you can try to say that what is my performance compared to 10 years ago, 5 years ago, 2 years ago, when I did something. And that is very easy to do with the software.
I think we could get into a very long discussion about
about
baseline and how to form.
How to calculate baseline.
Now it's really
it's just a formula which is in the software. But to choose which is the right period to compare to.
I know it's just interesting from the social
Yes.
Well, it's really nice to see that we already started the discussion. It's almost 7 p.m. We have more 30 minutes. I have one slide that actually summarizes some of the key elements that we saw this evening. The first one is that BIM is a central element of building management, and the role of BIM during the Hit the Gap project became clear. Gathering information from the buildings, it was a massive task. Get a building like Challenger and Nanaguna with the complex labs here, and the places where this information was structured in a proper BIM file, the deployment of BEMSERVER was way simpler. So that's the way forward for sure. The other element that was already discussed is the nature of open BMSs. In the case of Nanaguna, they had to change the entire BMS system because they couldn't extract any information from that system, which meant that the gap could not be deployed, and BEMSERVER as well. So that's certainly the way forward, even if there are trade-offs when you open the system. What we saw is that by embracing this new philosophy, you kind of go into a continuous commissioning process, which is healthy. So you're bringing new people to assist you in the operation of the building, identifying problems. And continuous commissioning is something that we talk a lot about how to implement that. And BEMSERVER is certainly a tool to help people in that journey. Facility management. As you saw tonight, there's so many terms, so many expressions, and people talking about API. What is an API? And what the API has to do with my daily work on facility management. So this is one small event on TBD, but for sure, as we move forward, we have entire new programs on how facility management can be in the future using this sort of tools. John just gave a comprehensive presentation about ISO 50001, how this can be used to help people keep tracking on the things that can be done to improve the performance of a building. And this is integrated and hit the gap in a very central way. No surprise, it was the last presentation. It brings together all these tools to an action and how you can keep track on that and make sure that you're compliant and so on. And those are all topics for discussion as the problem on defining baselines and all the trivial aspects of each one of these elements. Hit the gap baseline is a central repository. It's a way to bring back all the information that you have scattered in different systems and make it available to other people in a very clear way. So there's an ontology, there's a name for each one of the data structures in the platform, in such a way that myself and other developers can get that data through an API. So write a small program, we bring it together, bring it to our server, we manipulate that, and we deliver to the facility manager new piece of information. And this is quite unique. 4 years ago, you wouldn't be able to have a platform that would bring together two simulation groups, fault detection, ISO 50001, BIM, in a very simple, structured way. Very simple. There's space for discussion there, but it's certainly simpler than it was 4 years ago. Talking about the modules, visualization, it's a very new way of dealing with information, being able to see it all, and oh, I need the stacks for this particular air handling unit. You click on the air handling unit and voila, you have the data sheet for that, or you have the performance over the last year, or you have the simulation results, or the outcome of a fault detection and diagnostic tool. So lots of space there, a lot of space for improvement there, either using Zootech or any other developer that has a visualization tool can grab the information from BEMSERVER, of course, as long as the building owner allows that person access to that data, some element there, to visualize it in different ways. Data-driven modules, like the fault detection, getting data, analyzing this data with some statistics and saying, okay, this peak is quite strange, you should have a look because something happened here, or this flat line tells you that something is happening. So this was a big part of the work done during Hit the Gap, and it's available now through BEMSERVER. Simulation modules, laws of physics, fluid dynamics, and so on, and how we can bring new capabilities to the work of facility management. How we use that is to be discovered in the coming years. Bottom line is that the performance gap can be reduced using the tools that you saw here tonight. Because of course you have more people, more eyes, more energy on trying to understand this performance gap. So one way or another your performance gap will be reduced by using this combined approach. And it's an open platform that's going to foster other people to come and develop their apps. Philosophy in the beginning of the project that we would have a sort of app store, same way that you have for cell phones now. And a developer says, oh, I have something interesting to add to this tool. You bring your new module, and it's going to be available on BEMSERVER website. People can download it, pay the fee, install. People will open software philosophy, companies with proprietary technology. So we have all sorts of solutions there. And keep in mind that this is the first release of BEMSERVER. So we were discussing before the meeting, the first version of iPhone didn't have multitasking. So if you decided to check your email in the middle of a song that you were listening to, the song will be cut because you couldn't play songs and check your email at the same time. Now it looks pretty trivial to have 5 apps open and you're chatting and taking pictures and so on, because that's normal. New technology at the first moment has a lot of limitations, and as we evolve in time, the bugs that we see will be solved, new functionalities will be added, but for sure, the early adopters can harvest the benefits of using this tool in the first place. So the floor is now open for discussion. We really would love to hear your opinion about what you hear tonight. Compliments, critics, questions. Please. Any particular comments?
Hi, I just have a question for you regarding the ESPR model that you mentioned before. So you talked about the CFD simulation, and it sounded like I understood that it's almost a real-time simulation. So
you misunderstood that.
I might have misunderstood. So I just wanted to, if you could clarify, how do you see the simulation being done, and what's the advantage over running it in the way that it was done to hit the gap over basically just running one model of a certain environment?
Well, the questions are for everybody. Don't need questions. Ask questions. One for me is full for all the presenters. It takes a while to run the simulation, a couple of hours, depending on the complexity of the model, a couple of days. So it's not trivial. While logical can give you an energy simulation in 70 seconds, or it might take 70 hours. The advantage of doing this through hit the gap to BEMSERVER is that if you hire a consultant to do a CFD simulation of this room, once this job is finished, this model, CFX, Fluent, and so on, will rest in a folder somewhere and will die. Nobody will ever find that model again. And if you need the model, you don't have the license to open it anymore, and there you go. Why? The philosophy around BEMSERVER is that once you produce some knowledge, that stays there for all the users of BEMSERVER in your location. So once the model is there, Luis is working in the company. He decided to go back to Spain, right, Luis? Yeah. You're from Spain, right? Yeah. He decided to go back from Spain. The next user comes, logs on BEMSERVER, and he can use the model in the next moment. So there's in the same way that BEM tries to keep the knowledge in the same environment, BEMSERVER tries to keep tools for building operation in the same environment. And the second one is certainly calibration. Because as we can pull the information from the platform every time the user requests a new simulation, you have a simulation that's always calibrated. This is a big advantage compared to a consultant that will need to talk to the facility manager, download the file, open the file, see where is exactly the sensor, and then calibrate the model. Something that many people don't have the skills or tools or time to do. So those would be the two biggest advantages, but it takes a while to run that model, for sure.
The advantage is really the access to the measured data for calibration.
Yeah.
But in order to create the second model, so like I ask you to run a model of this room for me today, and then 2 months later I come and I say, oh, something changed here, I would like another model, and you can run it for me again, and you can do the calibrated model. But me as a user, I still am not able to really use the data or do anything with that model because it's too complex for me as a person who doesn't know anything about CFD to do it. So you still have that gap that you need a consultant who will create the model, calibrate the model, and then explain the data to you.
If the model was, if there was an actual change in the room, so you change the position of the grill, yes, you need to get the person that did the model and ask the person to update the model for you. But assuming that there was no physical change here, and you want to run the model in 2 months, the calibration is done automatically behind the scenes. So the person that did the model is not involved in the calibration at all. It's all done automatically. So if you say, oh, 2 months later, there's a complaint about thermal comfort, I would like to run the model again for that particular day, involve the simulation, it's going to get the data from that particular date, and recalibrate the models. If you're in the winter and the summer, you're going to get very different results with the same model, because that model was calibrated for those particular situations.
Now, I don't want to go too deep in this, but there's so many inputs in there, like, you know, the amount of people and the heat sources, and like if it's mechanically ventilated room, fine, you can have the input same, and that wouldn't change. But how do you deal with all the changes in the heat sources and looking at the thermal comfort? As we see for this room, we have less people than the room is designed for, and it's way colder than it would be if we had a full room of students here. So how useful is the CFD model model that is calibrated for certain conditions, then the conditions change, and you can't really predict what's happening with the thermal
I would
comfort.
say that that's exactly the beauty. There are so many parameters that require calibration. If you have a tool that can calibrate it all for you, of course, there's always some limitations. You choose a range of parameters that will be calibrated. But within that range, it gives a lot of flexibility to the facility manager because he can run a model for a very new setup, and the model will adapt to that new condition. There is space for improvement in the way calibration is done and the parameters that are taken into account, but it's a step forward towards something that we'll use on a daily basis.
Just it might be useful to make sure that all of the
So, yes, can I just clarify as well? The reason why it's cold in here, the heat and the chiller are off. You're just getting natural air from outside.
Well, that's good. That's why this is great.
Paul, to you, Paul, please. Yeah, I had a question for our audience. So we had the opportunity to have with us here the facility managers of this building at UIG. I think one of our challenges is this requires a change in thinking. We found even to talk amongst ourselves and to do our business differently, we need to change our thinking in terms of how we hand information to each other or the capabilities each of these different modules have in open source software. It's new in many ways. So 2 questions. One, is there space on your agenda for newness in the way you operate and manage your buildings? And 2, how would we tell people like you about such a platform and tool? How would we get through to your attention?
Okay. Question 1. Sorry, my name is Michael Curran, Head of Building Services and Energy Utilities here in University. So I manage all the buildings on campus. From our point of view, NUIG, go back to ISO 50001, we've been running for the last 9 years. We've surpassed the government target of 33% of energy reduction. We're actually now at 36.1. So we've been sort of implementing these things in the last 5 years. My own background is I'm a consultant building service engineer. I'm looking at this all the time. We're looking at it through, as I say, from a wide aspect of how can we reduce energy and still keep comfort. As I explained earlier, we have the factor where we have students, we have female staff, male staff, every type of environment here. We're trying to say it from point of view, we're trying to set limits that are comfortable, but also can help us reduce energy. The fact that, again, as Marcus said, we find the sensor was out. We actually added that to our register of opportunities, as was mentioned before in ISO 50001. That was an opportunity for us to save energy. It also brought forward here for us this project, which I want to thank you guys for, is that we've employed an air handling engineer to come look at all the air handling units and all the settings and all the parts. So this has actually helped us, it's involved, and from the point of view of letting us know, I suppose from ourselves, Marcus is letting us know that the project was ongoing, getting it out into the other universities. The university have a network of different energy managers. Maybe a presentation like this to all the university energy managers, and then we go to the other industries then, might be a way forward, you know. But it's been excellent because it's great. It's great, as I said, some register of opportunities extras for us as well. So we're happy with that.
You have a professional body of university energy managers. So
or do you
have an email list?
Yeah, there's a group of 10 engineers. Also, the other side, why we talked earlier about SIBSI, I'm also the vice chairman of SIBSI Ireland. So I'm dealing with all the consultant engineers as well in Ireland as well. We meet as a group. And again, that's another body of people. Again, Engineers Ireland are another body of people that we're all integrated with as well. So there is a lot of platforms out there. And you mentioned CPD. This could be a CPD for different parts of the industry and let them know it's there, you know. So as I say, Cylon is our base here. We use Cylon throughout the campus, you know, so we're pretty familiar with it. A lot of other universities, some use Trend, but we're Cylon based here. Our expert here, right?
Other views on Tom's question?
I'm a general consultant, I'm an engineer, but deal with a lot of hotel properties across the platform. I've been looking recently at this particular aspect. A lot of properties I know don't have base payments. So there's an opportunity to get in. So I think the selling point is energy savings is urgent because of the carbon reduction we're all facing now, the penalties that will come down the line. So it's a great opportunity. I thought the presentation was excellent.
Any other views from the audience?
I think for me, I think that's both the views there are very encouraging. So I think we're now looking for some pull rather than just us pushing. It would be very difficult for us to push unless there's some traction on the other side. So that's great to hear this. So I don't know my business
There's another point there, right? We find as a university, and we also, looking at the green campus point of view, a lot of the students coming to universities now are actually on the green campus route. They want to know what can your campus do, how are you reducing energy, are you using recyclable cups, light controls. It is a big factor in universities. So that whole green agenda is actually quite important, and we find that some of our students that are coming out this first year, we're asking information on carbon reduction, what waste facilities have we got drinking water fountains. So I think, as you say, there is a pull. Students, the generation coming that want that information, and if we can give it to them live, they'll request and say, well, what can we see? Like, we have the thing in the building, platinum buildings, we see a couple of buildings here, we see what they're doing, and we do get hits on the website to see who's looking at it. How much energy did the nurses use today against the engineers? The engineers will always use a lot, the nurses won't. So it's quite good. There is a pull. So
it's one of the things we have to do through our aspect platform, particularly at Dublin Airport. We have screens there, and that gives energy usage and energy savings. So it's maybe that's something again.
And there's an interesting dynamic because Cylon and the BEMSERVER have some overlap. So maybe we could even, in one aspect, say we're competitors. And commercially, we're outcompeted by Cylon. Commercially, they're set. They have the prices. They have testing and quality measures that this project has to arrive to in 10 years if we make it there. But one thing that Cylon isn't that maybe this project could be is a co-creation platform. So if you wanted to involve your students coding the BEMSERVER to solve a problem here on campus, this is something that commercially he doesn't have the time to do. And this kind of a platform would welcome the opportunity to do that. So this would be an interesting way to think about it. And also when you mentioned, hey, could you shape the BEMSERVER to help me with my litigation aspects or build a case, that's something that a platform that's open would be welcome to co-create with you, whereas maybe a commercial solution would have a harder time adjusting quickly to that.
We have a limit in what we can achieve, and already hitting average things that we don't do within Cylon. And if you wanted new things, it would go on a list. There is an opportunity there with open platform to you can break through that and make very quick changes.
Yeah, as I said, we've limited resources ourselves as well, and there's guys that we bring guys from the energy students on every summer, and they help us. And there is great knowledge and there's great expertise within the college within that kind of thing. So anything we can support, we're learning as well. As I said, we've learned from this project, we're learning from other projects, so we're open to it all the time.
The open nature of the platform calls for solutions that people actually have, problems that people are facing. So litigation, for example, I can see in the future a litigation model of Litigap or BEMSERVER that is supporting, because if you have problems of employees eventually suing because they didn't have the right conditions and so on, it's not a particular problem of a institution, it's across the whole market. And all the facility managers, when confronted this problem, say, what do I do now? Where do I get the data? How do I organize it? What are the standards? And eventually having this as an open platform will bring 3 or 4 different people together to develop the solution for that.
Question from a zero point of view, or if you look at psychology in this platform of how people react
There was an element on the...
They don't tell you about active buildings. You know, if a screwdriver guy walk around just turning things in. There's a lot of that here, you know. Guys just take sensors off walls just for fun and adjust things. Cars goes and finds them, you know. And then, as I said before in our earlier conversations, you know, some people are warm this side of the building, some are cold that. Any of that psychology brought into it?
No, I think there's a user behavior module and a we behave module. So seeing if the behaviors of your staff are creating problems, such as leaving windows open while heating or cooling shouldn't be, and trying to quantify and give some analytics on that. But in terms of, and I guess that could be related to what you're saying, but a strong psychological component, perhaps
no, not yet.
Yeah. So we're trying to integrate physical psychology here as part of an awareness tool, as part of our energy reduction, how we can convince people to reduce energy by turning off lights, you know, a sticker over the thing doesn't work anymore. That doesn't happen. So we're meeting with them, and the guys talking about doing a research project like this. You know, how do you make people more aware? You should turn off the light, you should turn off the heat, turn off the immersion.
There are always trends in this tool. So there are two tools that I just recall. One tool is game. This one trend is gaming. So to offer, and it's always experimental. So there are tools and that offer a gaming platform, so you can interact as a user game in interacting with the temperature of the building, provide feedback and so on, or even to compete who is the best to manage the building or just turn off the lights and things like that. Then there is another one which is the notching, which is something like you see in the traffic lights or the speed limits, where if you go below the speed limit, it shows you a smiley face and it makes you feel like you are a good citizen.
You use that in schools,
They use that in many places. They use it. It's a huge trend in user interaction in web applications. So it's a very addictive. It all comes from social media. There is an element of psychology on getting the user to feel satisfaction when he does something good.
The reward.
But certainly, and that's also becoming. Well, some politicians, they wanted even to introduce this things for traffic and things like that.
The other movement we're having now, certainly within Salon, is moving to IoT. So it's really getting the building to be more intelligent and do thinking for the individuals. That's coming very fast. You have developments coming out.
Just curious as well, guys, the data storage. Most are all CAD up to probably the last couple of years, but with saving the student accommodation, that's a BIM model. The next phase of student accommodation is a BIM model. Anything else, we've rewritten our statement of fundamentals based on climate action, BIM models, Revit, all that stuff. A lot of that will be basically BIM models. But again, we have the quadrangle, it's 1847, there is no BIM then, unfortunately. But again, it's a project. We've all the drawings. If anybody wants to generate BIM models for us, I'm more than welcome. If anybody wants to do the quad, go for it. Yeah, we own the owners of the BIM models. Yeah. Contract is that we own the BIM model.
Yeah. Other points, comments, suggestions? You're pretty welcome, because the project is ending tomorrow. Officially?
On Sunday.
Yeah. On Sunday.
But there will be a room for gathering feedback and in our work page if you contact us.
The end of HITAGAP project was just the beginning of BEMSERVER, and we have been discussing on how to actually make it useful for the community. So if there was something that you spotted during the presentation, I think this was potentially useful, or what if we go in that direction? That's a nice time to suggest.
There's also a feedback form for those who came a little late. just please just fill it and leave it there. And an attendance list. I will thank you if we all fill the attendance list for compliance purposes.
So the question was, if there is feedback or there is going to be some sort of summary paper?
We can also leave the presentation and it's to the email list, so the attendees. Okay.
And there will also be refreshments afterwards.
In the website, for sure the best way to get informed about the developments is the website, because that's where we are going to post new modules or providers.
And just to be clear, Hit the Gap is the project, e-project, there's a web page for that, and then BEMSERVER.org is now an open source project, so it's no longer limited to us, it's open to developers of the world. So it is really the way that we've freed this knowledge or set this knowledge out to be contributed by anyone. We'll have mentorship, but anyone can develop on it now.
Even for commercial purposes, so you can install it and develop services around it.
Nice to know we're getting a return on the taxpayers' money.
But you know that it's a fight that part of the community has been fighting for ages. You get many of these projects that at the end of the project you cannot see any of the outcome. And if it's a private company that got public money but they managed to move the business forward, they employ more people, they pay more taxes, the math is really simple. But in many cases you see public institutions getting the money. There's no business around that. There's no publication. There's no data, no software. That's really strange. So we are really proud in the consortium of what? 24 partners that we managed to push in that direction in a big part. I would say most of the organizations that are not commercial, they made their products available. So that's it. Thank you very much.